Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Emily. We're three life coaches who found connection in faith, friendship, and purpose.
Get ready for real talk, relatable stories, and practical tips you can actually use.
We're so happy you're here at the Life Coach Lounge. Hello, ladies. Welcome back to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm here with my friends Angela and Emily, and we're going to chit-chat a little bit today about back to school because it is that time of year. And so I named this podcast From Crayon Shopping to College Drop-Offs and Beyond, primarily because the three of us are at the latter end of our school days of raising our kids, and some of us, it's all behind us. So do you remember when the teachers would give you a back to school supply list? And for me, the pocket folders on the supply list had the words "no brads" in quotations, like "no brads." And I had no idea that was like a controversial thing. Like, some teachers were very strict on pockets only, no brads. So I'm curious, Emily, I know that you homeschooled both your girls, so maybe I'm looking forward to some amazing stories that you get to share with us today, maybe even in trying to find certain things for your homeschooling days. Angela or Emily, like in searching for things for back to school, did you have anything that was like, why does this matter? And why is this list so long? As breaking my bank.
Yeah, I'm not exactly a rule follower, so I just let my kids pick out what they like, and then I made them get new crayons. I think I made them get new crayons until they graduated from high school, just because I love new crayons. No, you're getting crayons. We are getting crayons. Or markers. New markers are amazing. Oh yeah, love back to school supplies.
I do not love the smell of new crayons. Do you guys like the smell of new crayons?
Yes.
No, not at all.
Girl.
Nope.
Love cracking open a fresh box of Crayolas. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, I agree. I love all the super sharp and the bountiful colors coming at me, but the smell, not my favorite. Emily, be a tiebreaker here. What do you think?
I love both of you equally, but I'm going to have to side with Lisa on this one. I do also love a brand new crayon and like coloring with it, but the smell, no. It's that distinct smell. And, as you were talking about supply lists, so my girls did go to public school until 1st and 3rd grade, and then we brought them home. So I don't really fully remember what those lists were for kindergarten through 3rd grade. But the beautiful thing about homeschooling is that I got to go to the office supply store or the back to school section, and we got to buy whatever we wanted. There wasn't anybody telling us what needed to be on that list. And to this day, Office Depot is like one of my favorite stores ever. And I think that most homeschooling moms would agree. Give me all the office supplies, all the school supplies. They're just so fun.
Sure, Angela was going to say, and I made my kids get stickers.
I do like my stickers.
I know. I thought for sure you'd be like, you need these stickers. So, like I said, we are all on the back end of those back to school days. So we're going to share a little bit today. We're going to talk a little bit about our perspectives from being quote unquote graduated moms, to what we thought mattered and what really did matter, as well as I do have some questions for Emily, just because I am always very intrigued about homeschooling. It intimidates me a little bit, so I always love learning from other people who either are walking through it or have done it. I find you to be like rock stars. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we miss from those days, probably a little bit about what we don't miss from those days. So let's start off with sharing some perspectives on being past elementary days, middle school days, high school days. I can still speak for, I do have one in college now, just went back recently. So, Angela, do you have some, like, when you think back to those early days, whether it was some routines that you always had in place, or what kind of comes to mind for you when you're like, oh, well, there's something I haven't thought about in a while, because your kids are older than Emily and my kids. Well, not my oldest one, but they've been out of school for a while now.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite things, and I look back on it so fondly, is the time I spent in the car with the kids. We lived on the very edge of the school district. So, even taking my kids to the bus stop, I drove them to the bus stop in the morning. So, sitting in the car with them early morning, freezing cold mornings, waiting for the bus. And I would always pray with them while we were in the old minivan, and we would, chat about their day or whatever. And then after school, kind of the mom taxi situation, I just loved being in the car with them. And I was different than most Christian moms that I knew. A lot of Christian moms I knew would only play Christian music in the car when the kids were in the car. And I totally get it. I totally see the benefit of that and all of that. But I kind of took it the other way. And I was like, I want you to turn on the music. So my kids would turn on the music, and then I got to know what they were listening to. So I learned there's like this one era of time where I literally know every pop song still to this day, because that was what we were always listening to in the car. So, yeah, I just wanted to know, what they were listening to at school and with their friends. So we had a chance to talk about it. But I would say, yeah, one of my favorite memories is all the time I spent in the car with the kids and buying crayons, of course.
There is an exorbitant amount of car time. There's,
Yeah.
as my husband calls it, windshield time. There's a lot of windshield time spent when your kids are young and not driving to all the things. How about you, Emily? You said that especially those younger days for your girls, what kind of comes to mind for you?
So when you said we were going to discuss this, and I sort of looked at the notes in preparation for it, and even now I'm not going to cry, but I did cry when I first was reading over sort of our notes and what we were going to talk about, because the time that I got to spend with them once we did bring them home from school, I wouldn't trade for anything. We, like, especially this time of the year, fall, like end of August, beginning of September, here in Minnesota, that's when fall is teasing its way, and then you'll still get the warm days. But that's when we had some of the most fun adventures. And because we homeschooled, we had just this beautiful flexibility. So if it was a beautiful fall day, we might take our school outside. We might ride bike to the park and have a picnic. We would go just adventuring outside and finding whatever we could find in nature and talk about that as it related to science or whatever. So there are just so many memories that I could list them all day long. And also in the homeschooling world, we like to say, the best part of homeschooling is that you spend every moment with your child, like you're with your kids all the time. And equally, the most challenging part of homeschooling is that you are with your kids all the time. So it's beautiful and messy all at the same time. But I got really nostalgic when you brought up this topic, and so grateful to look back on it.
I was a little nostalgic too when I was kind of thinking about, like, I wanted our conversation to not be like every other typical podcast that might be playing right now as kids are gearing up to go back to school, or maybe they've been in school in some states for a few weeks now or a month. I wanted it to be a little more what you just described, a little more nostalgic, a little more behind the scenes, so to speak, of like just let's just, as we do here in the lounge, let's just pull the curtain back a little bit and let's just talk about things that are both what you just described, both beautiful and messy all at the same time. Because I bet I could speak for Angela and say those car rides were also a combination of beautiful transportation as well as messy. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to get out of the car.
Exactly.
I'm glad that it kind of hit you that way because that's really what I want to chit chat about today. One of the things for me when I kind of thought back a little bit was building, like, again, for me in upstate New York, building now those, okay, so school's going to be starting in a week and it's time to start incorporating and putting back in those elaborative routines, and always the dreaded bedtime, time to start going back to bed a little earlier. That was always a push a pushback for my kids to be like, oh, I don't want to, it's still light out, I don't want to. But some of those more, like, lay your clothes out the night before, again, going to bed earlier, kind of quote unquote setting yourself up for success. And you get 2 weeks in and we're all just winging it at 6 a.m. in the morning, doing the best we can, slapping some peanut butter, some bread, and somehow they made it through, right? So, those are the kind of the things that kind of came up for me when I was kind of thinking back about those early days. And then when I think about something that like mattered versus what I thought mattered versus what really mattered, I was thinking about, again, like setting up those routines and like buying the perfect lunchbox. And I remember one year I bought like the lunchbox that had all the curated, no, curated might not be the right word. The kind of like a Tetris, like the containers kind of stacked
Mm.
together and fit in and just, and then, excuse me, hold on. Pause. Okay. So the containers kind of were like a Tetris game.
Like a bento box.
Right. And then those containers got lost. They
Yep.
never came home. So I'm like, this really matters. This is going to, like, your fruit's going to go in this and your veg, like, never mattered. So what kind of things come to mind for you when I talk about, like, I thought that mattered, but it really didn't. How about you, Emily?
I'm not sure if this is along the same lines, but this is what came up for me when you asked that question. So every year we would be able to choose new curriculum because we really did just kind of pick and choose. You can get the boxed curriculum where it's got all of the subjects for each grade and very academic, very much like doing school at home, like recreating that classroom public school experience at home. And we quickly realized that that wasn't the best situation for our kids to be able to learn in that capacity. So we were very much eclectic homeschoolers. So I might pick a math curriculum from this company and we would do a reading program from this company and English from this one. And so we had that flexibility to change all of that. And for me, it was choose the best curriculum. Which one's the best? Which one is going to be the most successful? And that was kind of overwhelming because once I really got into homeschooling, I was overwhelmed with the amount of options. There were so many options. So it was more about me telling myself, just choose one and go with it. And if it really isn't a good fit, you can choose something else. I mean, that's another beautiful thing about homeschooling. As long as it's not a huge investment from the beginning. That's the hard part is you spend a lot of money on something and then feel like you can't change your mind and pivot. But the whole idea of us homeschooling was so that our kids would be able to learn in the best way they knew how to learn and not just have to do the curriculum and hate it. So you talked about the shiny new lunch pail or a backpack or whatever it is. And for me, that would have been oh, the shiny new curriculum. This is going to answer all of our problems. And math will no longer be a situation where we're crying. No, it's just another math curriculum. So math is math. My kids don't love math. It doesn't matter how fun and exciting that new curriculum looks. In 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to come up against resistance and opposition. So picking the perfect curriculum or having the perfect schedule or routine, I learned quickly that we just needed to be flexible and learn to pivot.
That makes perfect sense. And one of the things I love about the homeschooling program is you describing that you can meet your children right where they're at. You don't have to, you're not meeting 20 children or more and then making them all. I always felt like, okay, especially over the years with like Common Core math and things like that, like making, not allowing the teachers to be creative and teach in different ways and approach things because every child learns differently. So trying to get every square into a circle peg hole isn't going to work. So that's one of those beautiful things. You were able to accommodate your daughters right where they were.
Definitely is a benefit of homeschooling. And also, it's easier said than done because not only are you teaching your child as the teacher and asking them to do this thing to learn, you're also their parent and they know how to get lazy, say, I don't want to. You really have to determine, is this because you truly don't understand this way of learning? Or is it because you know
Right.
that we're doing this is a behavior thing and you are challenging me as mom, not because you don't understand. So there's always that trying to figure out, what is this? Is this behavior or is this truly a learning block and we need to pivot? And that was constant. But it is beautiful when you think about it. Our goal was always to not squash their love of learning. And again, that didn't mean that there weren't tears when it came to math. For them and for me, because math is not my super strong subject either. But I didn't want to squash their love of learning. And with homeschooling, you have so many different ways to provide that learning environment for them. As long as you're meeting the state requirements for every subject, you get to really have a whole lot of freedom on how they learn those subjects.
I did not homeschool my children, and math is not my strongest subject either. And I have relied on YouTube videos more than once to be like, hold on, let me see if I can figure out how to teach you how to do this. So,
Yes, YouTube videos and our local college had math majors offer free tutoring. So sometimes you just have to go look for that resource. There are a whole lot of resources out there for public school moms and for homeschooling moms because we are not experts in every subject. So it's okay to ask for help.
Angela, what is something that you thought mattered versus what really mattered?
I mean, to bottom line it, behavior versus becoming. I think I was much more focused on doing the right thing and not doing the wrong thing. And my heart was in the right place. I wanted my kids to be obedient to God and have good behavior. But I was very focused on don't do this in high school or make sure you get your homework done instead of this is who God made you to be. This is who you are as that person. The overflow of that is, we are responsible people and that is who you are. And really speaking to their true self, I think if I could go back, I would focus more on that versus on the behavior side of it.
Right? If we had had coaching,
I know, right? For sure.
if we had coaching back then, how would that have turned out differently?
Everything.
Yep, for sure. All right. So, how about when it comes to something like, so for me, I just mentioned like this, that 6 a.m. in the morning scrambling around. I don't miss that. I don't miss the lost permission slips. And I don't miss the last minute, the night before. Oh, I have a project due tomorrow.
And it has to be on a certain size of poster board, which we do not own.
Yes, I do not miss any of that. Angela, what do you not miss? I mean, if you miss something, you already mentioned like the car rides and things like that, but what's something that you're like, yeah, I don't miss that?
I having 5 kids at home, the quantity of food was enormous. You know how when you go to Costco and you have to buy 2 packs of bagels, like, the pricing is for 2, you can pick 2 different ones. Well,
Hmm.
I had, I think, 4 packs of bagels on the counter one time, and someone came over and was like, "Whoa, what are you doing with all the bagels?" And I picked up 1 pack and I was like, "This is one breakfast." Picked up another one. This is one lunch. Like, do you understand how much food we consume here? And I don't miss that, but I will say going from 5 kids to empty nest was a huge adjustment in how much I cook. There were a couple years there where we were eating leftovers forever because I had not adjusted yet. So, I mean, there's part of that I miss, but for the most part, not so much. I do miss, especially when they're little, the bedtime routine. And even when, I'm probably looking at it through rose colored glasses, I'm sure I am, but the bedtime stories and just talking about your day at the end of the day and when they're all sleepy and cuddly, and yes, please give me that again. I would go back and relive that in a minute.
Emily, what do you miss from your homeschooling days?
There are so many. If I had to pick one, I would say similar to what Angela just said. I miss reading books together. I miss read alouds. So we would read chapter books where I would read it aloud. And the whole idea with that is that if they hear good literature being read aloud in the right sentence structure, then that helps them to be able to become better writers as well, because they've already heard the flow. And if they're reading good literature as well, it just is like kind of that they catch it versus being taught it, and you also teach it to them. But we had some of the best read alouds. We read about missionary stories. When we read the missionary story of George Mueller, I cried, and they looked at me like, "Mom, are you okay?" I'm like, "This is just the most amazing story I've ever heard." So I miss the read alouds, definitely. I don't miss the constant planning and record keeping. I don't miss that. And I only had 2 kids. There are some rock star homeschool moms out there that have more than 2 kids, multiple grades, and they're amazing to me because it was always something. You had to plan for the next day. You had to make sure you knew what lesson they needed to do, how many pages they needed to read in that next book, following up, did they do it? Looking at the worksheet they did do, recording that, planning ahead for next year. So there was always a planning and a record keeping aspect to homeschooling. And that took up a lot of time. So I don't necessarily miss that part of it.
So moving on to that next stage, whether your children went on to college, didn't go on to college, there's that time in life where they're young adults. And so it's kind of that weird emotional cocktail of, okay, so I've like all this pride of my child being moving into adulthood, and also there's a bit, for me anyway, there's a bit of sadness and grief because they're not, as you two were just describing, you're not reading them stories anymore. You're not having certain bedtime routines and things like that. So for me, when I think about like why I get emotional about sending my daughter off to school, it's like I said, I'm so proud and loving someone who is like moving into like her next best chapter, right? And at the same time, there's an empty chair at dinner time or movie night or something like that. And so I have had to remind myself, and coaching has helped with this. I've had to remind myself that I can be okay to allow space for both of those feelings. Like, I deserve this space to feel both that sense of a loss and some grief. And at the same time, I'm beaming with pride for what my kids are doing in their lives right now. And sometimes I want to say, I know we have a couple younger listeners, so I'm just going to put this out there for the younger generation who might be listening. It's not that we're not happy for you, because we are. It's that loving someone so deeply means that sometimes feeling that fullness of the time we remember, those visions like you two were just describing, those things have passed, those phases have passed, and we're just marveling in who you're becoming. And I, like, much like Emily, I'm not going to get all teary-eyed and too choked up here, but their growth, your children's growth, is like one of our greatest successes, right? And also, it's like a sweet sorrow, and it's just like all, it's not neatly wrapped with a bow on top, I guess is what I'm saying. So when it comes to those kind of years, what kind of comes up for you, Emily? I know you said that your daughter just recently got married, and so, but like, there's a lot of things during this time to navigate. Do I text them? Do I not text them? Do I reach out? Do I not reach out? Like, so how are you navigating that time of life?
Well, I think first, it feels like such a shock, even though it's not. I feel like as soon as your kids get their license and then they don't need you to take them to their activities anymore and they've got this freedom, that's like this slow start to them gaining their independence, right? And then Kylie did a gap year program in Colorado, and dropping her off last fall was like heartbreaking. Like driving down the mountain, I was like, I'm leaving my baby in Colorado. Like she's so far away. It feels like when it happens, even though I was prepared for it to happen and I knew that that was going to happen and I knew that she was going to be in the best place, super excited for her, like you were saying, so excited for her opportunity for growth. It really hit hard. It just happened so fast. And so to the mamas out there that still have little ones, whether they're really little, elementary, teenagers, grown teenagers, just be present. Like take in every moment, because you'll get to this point too and you'll say, wait, whiplash, how did we get here? Like all of a sudden. And so, yeah, so she's married now, and thankfully we still keep in touch. And it's both ways. I'll text her, she'll text me. Sometimes we'll FaceTime and just hang out, doing whatever we're doing, not even having conversation. So I'm very blessed that we have that relationship. And then also we have my older daughter who still lives at home with us with some various challenges. So I'm navigating kind of two different situations and still parenting in a way that I didn't see myself parenting her, and yet also super excited to see her growth and what that looks like for her. You know, I was talking about homeschooling being so flexible and catering to the way your child learns. That I feel like has just extended a little bit for my older daughter. She's needing something different at this stage of life than most 21-year-olds. That's okay. We're just navigating that with as much grace as we can. But yeah, this season doesn't come with a manual, unless either one of you have found the handbook for how to navigate this. I think you just do the best you can.
And you make mistakes, right? Like, I know for like my 20 somethings, they don't always get it right. And I recently had a coach, one of my coaches, tell me and a few other people in our coaching session, "Oh, well, let's just see. Let's just see." And so, while she meant that in a form of like a business strategy, it has really resonated for me when it comes to just being present and living life, and especially trying to navigate, like I said, that weird, like, oh, okay, do I text her right now? That generation gets really mad if you don't respond right away, and yet they don't respond right away. So do I make that mean something? Like, there's just there's a lot of weirdness that kind of comes with that young adult time. And not just when it comes to back to school time, but just in general. So, Angela, what kind of comes up for you when I'm talking about whether it's the college phase of life or just kind of parenting adults during this time of year?
Yeah, I think for me, I always assumed that all my kids would go to college. And I think that was birthed out of my not going to college, where maybe it was my insecurity or my insufficiency that I felt about myself. I put that on them. And so I just assumed this is what's best for you. So after high school, we go to college. And that did not serve them well. It didn't serve them well or me well. And we had, out of our 5 kids, we had 4 that went to college, and 1 went to boot camp and enlisted and went to boot camp. And 2 of the kids that started at university did not finish. And I remember, so this was probably, golly, 12, 15 years ago. Sort of the gap year thing was new. People were just starting to talk about a gap year. And I had so much fear about a gap year because I thought if you take a year off, there's no way you're ever going to go back. And again, that was birthed from my own experience, my own desire, that is the direction that I would have wanted to take in my life. I think I could have done that differently and considered other options, considered the trades, especially now. I mean, so many kids go to college that the trades have become so much more valuable. And I would just say to any parents out there, consider it all. Consider the gap year, consider college, community college, consider a trade. My daughter went to culinary school. It was a 2-year program that she turned into a 3-year because she did get a degree, not just a certification. But consider it all. Consider, like Emily said, what your child's strengths are and where their giftings are, and trust the Holy Spirit in them to guide them. And also, my experience, and disagree with me here if you want to, but my experience is there's not an 18-year-old on the planet that knows what they want to be when they grow up. Pushing a kid into college and making them choose a major, to me, is laughable. They have no clue. They do not know what they want to be. And if you look at studies, there's so many college graduates that aren't even working in their field of study. So just kind of take a deep breath, relax. It's going to turn out. It'll be okay. And don't feel all that pressure or the pressure that comes from fear. Don't feel that. That would be my advice because, yeah, I think I did that part wrong.
That
That's
is
great
a perfect
advice.
segue into I wanted to ask you both about if we were to hand out permission slips to our listeners, what kind of permission slips would you hand out? So you just gave one, Angela, and I think that I actually don't disagree with you. I might not like the smell of crayons, but I don't disagree with what you just said, especially when it comes to an 18-year-old knowing exactly what I know a lot of people in midlife. My husband, sorry if you're listening, but it's no secret. Like, does he know exactly what he wants to do when he grows up? No, no. And again, that's okay. Like, you can change your mind. You can change your mind at any age. So I love that you already gave that permission slip. If I were to give a permission slip, mine would be, well, I already kind of gave the permission slip when I talked about, like, to the younger listeners, like, this is probably why your parents are kind of feeling this way. But I will go back to give that permission slip to the parent to say, you can be excited for the alone time and miss them desperately at the same time, because relief and that guilt is not the right word. That relief and that sadness, they can coexist together. And I know that there were many times when my kids were growing up, I did not allow for both. It was one or the other. And unfortunately, a lot of time it was the one that didn't make me feel very good. That's the one that I tend to like camp out in, which wasn't serving me or my children at the time. And then the second one would be this probably could have been on our unpopular opinions confessions podcast, but when it comes to attendance in school, especially elementary school, dare I say high school as well, I know that the school is going to say you can only be absent so many times and don't play. Like, I mean, they are out of on breaks quite a bit from the school calendar, but take the trip, take the day off, play hooky, do the things, and don't allow the rules of the school district to be the edict for how your family lives their life and makes your memories. That would definitely be a permission slip that I would give. And like I said, maybe.
And I used to get so upset when they would give awards at the end of the year for perfect attendance. And I'm like, I know you sent your kid to school with a fever. There is no way. There is no way that your kid was not sick all year. So why do schools have that? I don't even know.
And my daughter would, her senior year, between illness and injury, she was absent over a full month of school, like close to a month and a half, maybe 2 months out of the what, not even 8 months that they might be in school with all of the time off that they have. That was a lot. She missed a lot of time. And yet she graduated and life moved on. And just because she injured herself and had surgery and had to recover, I was like, we are not sacrificing our trip together. Like, your mental health needs some time away from all the physical therapy you've had and the recovery. And like, no, we're going on our family vacation, and whatever the school says, well, I will talk to them.
Yeah.
Send your teachers my way.
Yeah.
I love that, Lisa. It's like permission to be the expert on your own child. Because you are, as their parent, you know them better than any school administrator or teacher does. You know what they need.
Yeah.
So, in addition to that, I would say you have permission to do things differently if that's going to help you or your family or your children thrive. And within a family, there may be one of your children that thrives at public school or private school. And there be maybe one of your children that would thrive by homeschooling or being in a smaller school environment. It's okay that it might look differently for your whole family or for individual kids in your family. But you're the expert. You know what they need. And this is full permission also if there's somebody listening who's always been interested in homeschooling, but is just kind of afraid because they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Hello, I didn't either. We just obeyed. We felt God calling us to bring our kids home. I had no idea. I was raised in public school. That's all I ever knew. And we still did it. There are so many resources out there. There is definitely help. And if you try it and it doesn't work out, you can always enroll them back into school again. That's my advice.
Good advice.
Yeah, I like that, especially I was going to ask you specifically what piece of advice and or a permission slip would you hand if someone was kind of on the precipice of, I don't know if I can do this. You
I
can use
question that all the time, even. I mean, I still to this day look back and I think, well, that whole homeschooling journey was just one big experiment. Turned out okay, but the whole time you're doing it, because it does fall on your shoulders, you are primarily responsible for educating your child. So you can either look at that and be totally overwhelmed by that, and you do want to take it seriously. And it's so much more than academics. There is help for the academic part. The whole idea is to shape their little hearts and their little minds to be, like Angela said, to be who God created you to be. What gifts has He given you to bring to the world? And how can we best foster those gifts and abilities so that as an adult, you figure out how to bring those gifts to the world? Bottom line, it's so much more than academics. And in public school, private school, any sort of schooling, I think that's really good to remember. It's always more than academics. Academics are important.
And why are
Yes.
they not teaching us how to find, the right life insurance, the right change a tire, car insurance, how to make
Money
gravy?
management.
Yeah.
Yes, all the things, money management, you're right. Like all these life skills instead of how to take apart a, I don't know, trapezoid or something. Who knows? Something I've never used.
I love it. This episode is ending in a little, okay, this might be unpopular opinions.
Yes,
And
little snarky.
yeah, we
We're
are
going a little bit
totally,
rogue, but that's okay.
that's okay.
Sometimes I think people need permission. It's okay. And other people in your life probably won't understand. There were plenty of people in our lives, whether it was family or friends, that outrightly was like, "What are you doing?" Like we knew they didn't agree. Or they were supportive and also, I think, secretly a little bit nervous. Like, what are you doing? Hopefully it works out. Those people are not in charge of you raising your kids. Like, it does take a village. You do need support systems, but you know what's best. You can just trust the Holy Spirit to guide you.
Well, ladies, I'm just going to end with just reminding. I'll rein in the starkiness just maybe ever so slightly, but I'm just going to remind our listeners we are not asking you to have it all figured out. We're asking that you trust that you are enough exactly as you are and wherever you are in whatever season. Because let's be real, we've all admitted that none of us have it all figured out. And we encourage you to just take a few of the practical takeaways from today and giving yourself some permission. Use those permission slips. Write your own permission slip and feel all the messy emotions and remember what actually matters in the long run. So here's your homework. And yes, we're all giving you a little homework for this from this episode. Just pick one. Write your own permission slip. Share one that we shared with you today and give it to yourself this week. There's no overhaul required to the whole back to school approach. Just try one small shift in how you're thinking about this season as it approaches, or maybe you're already in it. So, ladies, as always, thank you for hanging out with me today in the lounge. And to all of our listeners, we were so glad to have you with us today. And if something we talked about, maybe it hit you right in your feels, or maybe you were like, I don't know if I agree with that. We would love to know. We would love to have that conversation with you. So please find us on Instagram at the Life Coach Lounge, or all of our links are right in the show notes. We would love to have a conversation with you. And speaking of connecting, I'm just going to throw out there as we move back into school. And sometimes things do feel a little messier. If you're feeling like this back to school season is a little bigger than I was expecting this year, all three of us have coaching spots open for this fall, and we are opening up our fall spots right now. So, like I said, we are here for you, and all of our links are right below. So here's the thing. We're just genuinely grateful to be a part of the journey wherever you are in your journey. Whether you're sending your kids off to kindergarten, college, or you're on the other side watching it all with knowing smiles, we see you. So until next time, Emily and Angela, I will see you in the Marcos, and everyone else will see you next Tuesday.